Good morning, Jimmy.
Jeremy, how are you?
Doing great, thank you. We are here. We're back in the seat for Between Two Fiduciaries, talking taxes.
I love it.
You know, it's on the cusp of the tax season having ended for you. So are you all right with this?
I'm great. I love it.
All right. So the quick question here is, did you pay more or less in taxes?
Okay.
And we're going to look at that from a couple different angles, a couple different lenses. We'll look at it from the big picture, some projections on the one big beautiful bill.
Yep.
And then want some of your insights after having ripped out nearly 60 tax returns.
Sure.
What'd you see?
Yeah. Okay. Let's do it.
This is from the Tax Policy Center done by the Brookings Institute. So this is pretty good research, no doubt. Very deep. There's a big paper that backs this up with a ton of references.
Oh, yeah.
It's deep research. But what we're doing here is we're looking at a couple of things. And we're trying to understand, on average, by the way, this was produced in March of this year.
Okay.
So this is pre the taxes
being finalized and
finalized
all processed.
And settled in.
Sure.
And, you know, so this is a projection.
Yep.
The average federal tax change in dollars and then in percentages. That's kind of what we've highlighted here. And we're trying to look at that against the backdrop of, okay, who was getting the biggest benefits from this from an income source perspective?
Right. Yep.
And how did that play out? So what you've got here is you look at this on the bottom, it's the addendum, the 80 to 90% bracket. That's 217 to 317 in annual income.
Right.
Okay, they did pretty well. They saved $5,400. That's about 2%.
Yep.
Right. You move up 90 to 95%. That's 317 to 460.
Yeah.
In income.
Mm-hmm.
Even better, 8,900, 2.3% down. Sort of the sweet spot, if you will, is this 95 to 99. Of course, not a lot of people fall into this category, but some do. 460 to 1.1 million.
Right.
So if you've had a really good year, you
Yeah.
know, you're probably going to fall in that category. We have a handful of clients, I think, that are in that. They're lucky enough to be in that category for sure.
Right.
And so that's 3.1% down.
That's quite a savings.
21,000. Now I'm going to tell you this. I don't think people are feeling great about when you're ripping out checks for big dollar amounts to the IRS. You probably don't feel that so much, right?
Right. Absolutely. I think that's the feedback I think that you get from clients. It's not that I think everybody understands that taxes are they've been around for a very long time. People understand you're paying a lot of money in taxes. That means that you made a lot, right? I think we want to make sure that we're not paying taxes that we don't have to pay.
Yeah.
Right. So you're aware of certain decisions that you're making. Like, listen, if you make that much money and just wage income as a W-2 earner, that's very rare, I would say also,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like oftentimes when you see the big income earners, like yes, there's good W-2 wage earnings. There's typically something else in addition to that, right? Like you had some sort of equity compensation plan that the returns were very good that helped increase your income, right? Like
right.
You had stock options that vested.
Sometimes a one-time event or something close to that.
Exactly.
Some sort
right.
of liquidity event in their space.
Right. It's very rare that you see folks that have just straight wage income from their employer that puts them in that in that high of a bracket. But nonetheless, when when your income isn't being withheld at a rate that is able to keep up with your total tax liability, if you are making that much, it can still be painful. I don't think anybody's feeling that sorry for them at that
Sure.
income level, but they don't feel particularly warm and fuzzy about having to write the size of the absolute dollar size of the checks, even if you're trying to tell them, but hey, relatively speaking, this is a lot better than what it was last year
Mm-hmm.
or in years past.
Right.
Right. It still doesn't quite feel the same as somebody who didn't have to pay more.
I think that's the intersection of finance with emotion and financial behavior.
Right.
And that's quite understandable when people feel that way. So what they're painting is a pretty rosy picture, though, overall for the taxpayer.
Right. Absolutely.
So on average, it's about $2,800 in savings on average.
Yep.
Which is about 2.2% lower than what it would have been the year before.
And this is on the heels, right? If you think about, if we're looking like more like bigger picture historical context, pre 2018, the rates were even higher. This one big beautiful bill was done as like an extension of the Tax Cut and Job Act, which already had reduced, tax inflows for the government.
Right.
There's already a reduction in the rates that folks were paying. There was widening of the brackets that was discussed. A massively increased standard deduction, right? There were a lot of changes that folks have, I think, started to get comfortable with in the last, 7-8 years of the implementation of the Tax Cut and Job Act. And now the one big beautiful bill extended a lot of that, the rates permanently with some additional add-ons, right? Like the no tax on tips, the no tax on Social Security that was marketed as being some of the big benefits that were going to be included in this one big beautiful bill. So I can tell you that anecdotally from what I saw preparing returns this year, listen, we obviously have a number of clients that are already retired, right? Mm-hmm. And they're living off of their retirement income, whether that's Social Security income, whether that's required minimum distributions from their IRAs, or just normal IRA distributions, or they have outside brokerage accounts. They're living off of these, this asset base that they built. And what's nice for us as planners is we're able to, much more control what their income will be for the year because they have different buckets of assets to pull from. Well, one of the big things this year, I'm going to focus on the Social Security for a second, okay. Right? They didn't really make Social Security income completely tax-free. Right? That's not really possible. That was sort of how it was marketed, but the devil's always in the details. And really what was done was there was this increased standard deduction for taxpayers that were 65 or older. And there were income thresholds for this, but if your income was under $150,000 and you're a married filing jointly couple, you were getting an additional $12,000 added on to your standard deduction for last year.
Pretty powerful.
I mean, it's really powerful. And that's what I saw quite a bit of for our retired and older clients was that they were really benefiting from this. And the numbers that I see in the projection here tie out and agree with what I experienced in preparing their returns. And the beautiful part for us is, now that we've had some of these clients on board for multiple years now, you're able to see the comparison in the tax software of looking at what did their return look like in 25 compared to 24 compared to 23. And when you're looking at those three, you see that effective rate going down, and it does match up pretty closely with the Brookings Institute study here. So that increased standard deduction really helps. And listen, obviously there's so many different offshoots to that reduction. Doesn't just reduce the taxable income and reduce our tax rate. It has other potential side effects. And again, without going into too much detail, it can really impact the tax rate that they're paying on their outside brokerage accounts, because there are some investments kick off income, capital gains or qualified dividends that could be taxed at 0% now.
Right.
Because of this increased deduction that reduces their taxable income down so much more that another larger chunk of their income is now captured at a 0% tax rate. So that's where we really were able to step in and help clients from a planning perspective of like, this is where we were in the past, this is where we're at now. How do we take advantage of the rules that are in place today to make sure that you're not paying taxes that you don't need to be paying?
Yeah. In summary, kind of what I'm hearing is, look, if you're a W-2 earner, there's a handful of things that can be done, that are being done, even in this one big beautiful bill act, that are going to help you. But you are what you are when you're a W-2 earner.
Right.
And that's okay.
Right.
It's how most of working America is.
Right.
Then you get into the retirement phase of your life. Well, I think one of the lessons that we're learning from this is that when you have set yourself up with a little bit more tax diversity, meaning you have money, say, in Roth, you have money, say, in an IRA, and you have money in a brokerage account.
Yeah.
You've got this balance in your portfolio. There's a lot of things that we can do on the backside with taxes that you cannot do when you're just a W-2 employee.
That's it. Spot on, partner.
So we're pivoting. It sounds as if we're pumping the tires on the One Big Beautiful Bill Act.
Yeah.
Look, we don't have a dog in this race. It is really about giving the facts. And one of the questions that comes out of this is, can we really afford to give away more in taxes?
Right.
And what are the implications for us as both citizens of the United States and also investors in the capital markets here in the United States going forward?
Yeah. Well, look, that's a very, very important and massive question to be answered. Um, the short answer is absent a reduction in spending, you have less money coming in. So you're not balancing the budget. If you keep spending more and you're bringing in less, the deficit is going to continue to increase. Pretty simple to understand,
And
right?
that's what this slide is telling us, right? I mean, it's just that simple. You have sort of a projection based on, the one big beautiful bill. By the way, a lot of the elements of the one big beautiful bill expire in 2030.
And some of them before that,
Yeah.
right? So some of them are only good through 2028.
Mm-hmm.
So again, there's a lot that was in there, and some of it is going to be, currently is extended permanently. And I know you can't see me, but air quotes permanently until it gets changed at some point in the future. But there are parts of this that are going to expire in 2028, and some thereafter, and some will be changing whenever another administration is able to get different tax legislation through. But absent a meaningful ability to offset the reduced income from lower tax inflows to the tune of 2.2% on average, if we're not reducing our spending by the same amount, your deficit's going to continue to grow. And that's the hope behind it is that the economy is able to grow at a rate that offsets that shortfall in income through reduced tax payments, right? But that you don't want to grow too fast, right? We were having this conversation.
Yeah.
It's sort of like you want to have like the steady growth rate that is able to keep pace with an increasing deficit, right?
Yes. You have to. It is threading the needle when it comes to, the monetary policy, because you grow too fast, you're going to potentially bring out inflation, which means you're going to have to
Increase
mess with
rates
by
and
increasing them. Okay, and that creates an instability.
right.
It also creates more debt for the United States,
Right.
right? Because every time we're raising the interest rates, guess what? The government's paying that directly.
Right.
Directly to its bondholders.
Yeah.
So, and if you go too slowly, that's a problem too.
Right. I think thread the needle is very well said there.
You got it. So look, we're in trouble from a public debt perspective. There's no doubt about it. I don't think there's a whole lot being done about this from a political perspective these days.
Right.
There probably needs to be a reversion to make this part of somebody's platform to talk about this a little bit more, because this is going to infect and affect all the different things that we have come to know as very important to us as taxpayers, like Social Security, like Medicare, etc. So it's a bigger subject than what we can possibly tackle, but there's a little bit of trouble on the horizon here.
Yeah.
And probably the biggest thing for us, I think, as financial planners, is to say, you as an investor have this unique opportunity to probably pay less taxes today than you do in the future.
Right.
And when we say in the future, maybe it's 2030 and beyond.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe. But that's the thesis that we would operate under, is that there's a higher likelihood that taxes would go up from here than continue to go down.
Right. Well, I mean, look, what's the joke? It's like, predicting, making predictions is difficult. Predictions about the future is impossible.
Right.
Right. And so this is, obviously a large projection years out into the future. So who knows what that's actually going to look like and how the world is going to unfold between now and where we're projecting out. But I do think the point that you made is really important. As planners, to build a good plan, you need to be able to look backwards a little bit, right? To see, like, where have I been historically from a tax rate perspective? Where am I at currently? In the current context of what we're just looking at with the Brookings Institute study, and how best can I project and predict what it's going to look like going forward? Obviously, that's impossible to know, but at least to build a good, solid plan, those are the variables that you need to account for. And of course, we don't know what's going to look like in the future, but this very well may be a real opportune time for folks to potentially, if the goal is to pay the least amount of taxes over the course of your lifetime, paying a little bit more now might end up being the best bet for them. But again, this is all customized to the individual.
Each case is unique.
This is no tax advice. This is no recommendation. This is just understanding where you've been, where you're at, and how best can we project where you're going to be moving forward to build the best plan for you.
No doubt. I think that's well said, and I think that's where we should cap it.
Yeah.
Before the audience fully falls asleep on our tax conversation. So no, it's been good. To end on a positive note, again, I think people are probably doing pretty well by one big beautiful bill here on their 2025 taxes.
Correct.
Looks like that will probably continue in 2026. So take it for what it is. That's a reduction in your tax liability.
There you go.
There we go. All right. Thank you, Jimmy.
Thank you.